Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Virginia City Council Chambers. This is a regularly scheduled Committee of the Whole meeting. I'll call this meeting to order. Today's date is Tuesday, June 1st, 2021. The time is 9 a.m. We have a full agenda today. We have some appearances moving forward, and for those who are listening at home, we have our staff present here. And as you can see, the council chambers is back to a pre-COVID configuration. Is glad to have the opportunity to get back to some normalcy. So we'll start with item number one, which is appearances, and we're going to turn this part of the Committee of the Whole agenda over to our City Administrator, Britt C. Bennett. Britt?
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is Jeff Dam requesting tree planting at the Children's Memorial Park.
Mr. Dam, please come forward. Turn the green light on there on the microphone there, and welcome. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Scott Weeple was supposed to come here today to cover some information on this. He couldn't make it, so I missed a meeting, so I got selected to attend. Anyways, this pertains to the Children's Memorial Park. We're requesting 25 trees to be added to what is already at the Memorial Park. We're also requesting that there's 5 tree stumps from removals that we would like to have ground down, and asking for the Park and Rec to remove those stumps. We're also asking if Park and Rec can do the planting of the new trees as we get them in. So the trees are for families that have lost a loved one, and they can put a plaque and dedication of a tree in the park along the pathway. Does anyone have any questions other than, I had a 1-hour speech all lined up, but I forgot it at home.
Thank you, Jeff. I know this was an item that was brought to our attention a year or so ago, or even maybe a little bit longer, as part of our Park and Rec Director's responsibility. Mr. Brian Silberg, he wears a lot of hats. We've put a significant amount of responsibility in that regard, and the tree issue is one of those that he administers. So, as we move through this process, I think it would behoove us to have the Memorial Committee for the Friends Angel Park to meet with our Park and Rec Director and have them devise a plan on something moving forward. I see Brian is here right now. Brian, could you address this for us?
Yes, in your packet, you will find a memo from me and also a layout of what the Children's Memorial Park is wanting to do. We've already gone through this process. I've already been working with them. I'm in complete support of this project. As you know, I've said many times that we need to get into the business of tree planting, not just tree removal. There are the 5 stumps that are there from trees that we had to remove last year. They are on our list to grind those stumps here this year when we begin our tree stump grinding. This plan, the Children's Memorial Park has been working with a landscape architect. They are using trees that are native to the area. Not only am I in support of this project, it has already been presented to the Park and Rec Commission that unanimously supported this project. I foresee over the next 5 to 10 years, a majority of those pines that are between the Children's Memorial Park and the Field of Dreams baseball field, they are all at the end of their life. I foresee those needing to come out. So this is a great step in the right direction of planting trees where we've already had to remove some. So I would recommend that the council approve and support this tree planting plan that the Children's Memorial Park has worked with the landscape architect to devise. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mr. Dam. If we just hang out for just one moment, we'll go around the City Council. Staff's comfortable with it. I'm comfortable with it. We have a plan moving forward, so I have no issues here. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you both for presenting this. I'm in full support. I just have one question regarding the tree planting legend that's in our packet. Some are mid-sized, some are small, and some are large. Evergreen, deciduous, ornamental. Will the root system affect the trail or any of the sidewalks or walking areas currently, like between the Children's Memorial Park and the Field of Dreams, those big trees, a lot of ruts and kind of hard to walk through that field space?
No, it should not affect the field, the open field space. We do run the risk with the large deciduous trees with their roots impacting the sidewalk that goes from that little parking area up to the memorial itself. But that's one of the reasons why they are spaced where they are. They're farther away from the trail. If we had planted them, kind of like we do our boulevards where the tree's planted right next to the sidewalk, then the roots really impact it. But by moving the tree farther away from the sidewalk, it negates or reduces the negative impact that the tree will have. And then a lot of the smaller ornamental trees, their roots grow out, not deep down, especially the evergreens.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. Anyone else? Councilor Freely, and then over to Councilor Bearable. Councilor Freely.
Has there any been conversation like with Mr. Hennis or Public Works with regard to maintenance and upkeep? We have the manpower, the equipment necessary to do all this work, and we're geared up and budgeted to do so?
Have not brought Mr. Hennis into it because it would be all park and rec staff and equipment that would be used in this. The tree planting, other than watering them the first year, there's really little maintenance until 20 years from now when we have to start pruning them and everything to keep them in good condition.
Do we have a grinder, or do we contract out for that kind of work?
We have access to a grinder through the Emerald Ash Borer Association that we typically try to get 1 month over the summer so that we can go around and grind all the stumps that we had cut the previous year. For the past 2 years, we've been doing a lot of stump catch-up work because, like I said, we've been really good at tree removal. Haven't been very good at stump removal or tree planting, but we're getting caught up on the stumps. Hopefully, by the end of this summer, we will have caught up on all the stumps that are out there on our boulevards, in addition to some of the stumps that are in our park system.
I would go ahead and make a motion then to approve the request for tree planting at the Children's Memorial Park if it's timely to do so.
Yeah, motion by Councilor Freely to approve the tree planting request and the proposal that was outlined in our packet. Is there support?
I'll support for discussion.
A support by Councilor Paulson for further discussion. Further discussion. I have just a couple of things, but first, Councilor Bearable.
Yeah, just a couple of questions, Brian. Are these going to be put in all at one time or phased over a couple of years? So how are they going to be done?
The plan of the Children's Memorial Park is to get all of the trees at one time, and then as they have sponsors for the trees, to place the plaques on those trees.
That was the second question. They are sponsoring the trees and paying for the trees, just
Yeah.
our labor to put them in?
Correct. Our responsibility in this is to assist with the planting using our auger and to prepare the site by removing those old stumps. So basically, we're providing labor, they are providing all of the trees,
Okay.
which makes it a win-win for us.
I think this is a good project, so I'm supportive.
Thank you. Just as on a side note, I know there was a couple years ago when a capital equipment request had in the budget. Ed Alto at the time, the former Public Works Director, had made a presentation to the council about a grind stump grinder that attaches to a backhoe or to some other thing, and that you could move it from one place to another and get that done. For some reason or other, and I don't know what the circumstances are, either it wasn't formally presented or was before the budget or after the budget, I can't remember. But it was something maybe for us to take another look at, Brian, to consider in the future moving forward, if that's something that's feasible as a collaborative between Public Park and Rec and Public Works. I don't know the circumstances around that, so.
That is still on our capital budget wish list.
Very good. Thank you very much, Brian. Okay, so it has been moved and supported to approve the plan in your package regarding the tree planting requests at the Children's Memorial Park. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
When you
Appreciate it.
don't
Thank you,
come,
Brian,
when you don't come to
very
a
much.
meeting, you get selected to make the statement.
Be on the council, right?
Thanks for coming in. Thanks, Jeff. Thank you, Brian.
The next item on the agenda is Julie Spearing, DSGW, regarding furniture, fixtures, and equipment design status summary for the Miners Event and Convention Center.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
Once again, thank you for coming, and let's go.
Take it away. I'm here to present to you the quotes that we've received for a number of furniture packages for the MEC today, and then just kind of fill you in on where we are at with the entire process. So last week, we took quotes for the event center seating and the arena lounges and event center concourse furniture, and then some miscellaneous items that were not quoted originally in some of our earlier quotes that we kind of combined into another package and requoted that. So we're going to start with just a quick schedule update, where we are in our schedule right here. I just did a quick week count, and to the end of August, we are at 13 weeks. End of that first week of September is 14 weeks. So lead time, we're still okay on everything, but we need to keep moving along and make sure that we're getting things on order in a timely fashion here. So Daniel Paul package, this was the seating for the event center, the banquet center chairs. We received two quotes, one quote from Range Office Supply in the amount of $108,570. Firelight Galleries, a quote in the amount of $119,908.80. The difference in the payment terms, I'd like you to note as well. Range Office Supply is requesting 100% down to place the order, whereas Firelight Galleries is requesting 50% down. Do you want me to continue going through all the quotes, or do you want to address each of them individually?
Well, I think just continue to move forward, and if there's somebody has a light on, then I'll interrupt. I guess we do have a light on. Counselor Bearable.
I just have a question, and this is an important question. The supply chain problems that have been going on in this country, are we guaranteed these are going to be on time because of our late ordering of these, or have they already been looking at the supply chain? Because I'm concerned that we may not get all this equipment in time. What's the guarantee on us getting it in time?
Although I can't guarantee it, I am depending on the information that's coming to me from the manufacturers. There's a couple good things here. The materials that we are purchasing are being fabricated and coming from the U.S., so we're not depending on things coming from overseas, which is helpful. The longest lead time items really are those banquet chairs for the event center, and currently they're telling me 10 to 12 weeks. So I'm comfortable with it, but we really can't delay any longer.
Thank you, Counselor Bearable. Any other questions for Julie thus far? Seeing none, Julie?
All right, KI package is next. We received two quotes again. Range Office Supply, $157,533.88. Again, the payment terms 100% down, due on placement of order. Firelight Galleries, $162,133.88. Payment terms 50% down, 50% due before the order ships. Questions on that one?
I have one question as a point of order. As these move forward, Britt and Pam, are these, will we take these as one motion at a time for each bid, or can we just do it all at once? We should do them separately. So as we move forward, well, we have both, we were hearing quote one and quote two, so at the end of this, we can make a motion on each one unless it's more prudent to do it right away. But I think we should hear everything first before we move forward. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Julie?
All right, the third package is those miscellaneous items that we were requoting. This includes some folding portable coat racks and hangers, let's see, no, trash cans were already awarded. A cooler for the boardroom. And so in this quote, we did let the vendors know that we would accept non-complete quotes, just in order to make sure that our local vendors were able to provide pricing. So you'll see that the quotes from Genius and Perpetch are just for that beverage cooler in the boardroom. And whereas Northern Business Products, their quote of $15,263.03 is a complete quote. Our quotes ask for a breakout, so with that information, we know the value of the beverage cooler that they quoted, Northern Business Products, is $3,035. So that's information that you can use to kind of compare to the pricing from Genius and Perpetch. And I would be comfortable with any three of those for that item.
Okay, thank you. We have a question, Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Julie, is there a breakout on those individualized items between Northern Business Products, Genies, and Perpetch in the packet?
There isn't, I'm sorry. I can provide that afterwards here.
Okay, so the beverage cooler, is that like a little refrigerator
It is.
for Brian's office? Or
No, it's in the boardroom.
it's the boardroom, okay. And are these items, I remember our Park and Rec director stating that these would also, some of these items would be, we could also acquire on our own without going out, that they're available. Is that true?
You could, yes.
So I guess I'd like to see a breakdown on that in order to determine how to vote on that,
Okay.
if that's okay.
Yeah, and I'm not as concerned about timing on this one.
Right.
So if we need to address this package at a later time, that's perfectly fine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. Any other questions or comments up to this point? Julie?
All right, I have just a summary here quickly for you of kind of where we're at overall with the FF&E packages and the overall budget. The number down low in gray, these were our budgets. So this was what we were estimating during the design process. That total before contingency was 328 versus adding contingency in there, the 344,400. We are sitting a little bit higher than that right now, obviously, with the total of where we're at. These are all hard costs, except for the remaining items, which I've estimated. There's a couple items that we are still working on sourcing of, the boardroom table and some special benches that we like that our original vendor kind of fell through for. So, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, we are still substantially less than what was originally budgeted?
Yes, in my budget before we began this process, I had budgeted $400,000 for the furniture. So even with these costs, we're still roughly $32,000 under my original FF&E budget for furniture.
Thank you, Brian. And just if I may, was the design team involved in this as well?
Yes.
Very good, thank you. Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you. How much more is left to come into this to keep us within the budget?
So the current cost summary up above, the last kind of non-fixed items, and just know that I have plugged in the apparent low quotes above that. That 30,000 estimated is the last kind of unknown.
Do we have, is the fireplace in the living room area included in any of this? Or has it been done?
As far as I'm aware, that's part of the construction package.
Okay. And that has all been ordered? Has the fireplace been ordered?
When you're asking about the fireplace, what are you asking about the gas insert and the rock work and everything?
The gas insert?
Yes, that was part of the MEC bid package 2, part of the construction for the building.
So that's under the construction side?
Yes, that's under construction, not FF&E.
And where was that fireplace ordered from, the insert?
I would have to go back and look who was the low bidder on that. want to say it was Hemovich that is doing that, but I'm not 100% certain at this point.
And where are they located?
You're a mechanical.
Yeah, the mechanical contractor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Beyondich. Counselor Paulson.
Thank you. So I went back and pulled out a budget sheet from a while back, Brian, but how far out, what is the difference on that grand, I guess it's your grand total, 368,383.65, prior to us losing the vendor of choice? What is the difference in that? I understand that cost has obviously increased because they don't have a real vendor relationship. But do you have that dollar amount of what we were going to be paying to what we are now asked to pay?
Because we never received a quote from that original vendor, I'm dependent on the estimated pricing that I was working with.
Okay.
Which is reflected in that
That
lower
makes sense.
grade out.
Okay, thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. Any other questions or comments thus far? Seeing none, Julie?
I would ask that you consider the information presented and make a decision on how you'd like to proceed with each of the packages.
Okay, well, let's go back to the first one.
Let's see, how do I go back?
Okay, this is the,
Let's go back to the very first one.
let's go back to the very first one. Yes, thank you.
Sorry. There, oh. There we go.
Okay, there we go. You have, see it on your screen in your packet. It's the Daniel Paul package, right? 2 quotes received, range office supply and Firelight Galleries, and you can see the quotes, both the low bid and the higher bid. And so we're looking for a motion and some discussion about this package. Counselor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. In the design team discussion, part of the items that we did discuss is the fact that neither one of these local companies had specific vendor relations with the manufacturers. So we kind of knew previously that they would be asking for possibly 50% down or 100% paid in front or due upon placement of the order, mainly because they didn't have terms that they've already negotiated. So they basically had to go through kind of the application process right from the beginning to become a vendor. So I just want to let the council know and the general public know that that's the reason that some of them are asking for 100% and 50%, because we kind of had to do a little scrambling since the other vendor fell through.
Thank you for that clarification, Counselor Paulson. Counselor Bearable.
Yeah, and that's why, Julie, that I asked that question about if they can get these products here on a timely manner. If they don't have a relationship with these companies, are we going to get anything in writing from these 2 vendors or either one of these vendors that they're going to be able to meet the timeline that we need? Otherwise, we're screwed for that opening of that facility, which we can't be.
Yep, I am dependent on the information that I'm being given at this point.
Okay. Because I'm having a concern with what I'm seeing across the country right now with product being back ordered and stuff. I'm dealing with one myself, trying to put a new generator system in my home. It's supposed to be in already, and it's not because the product's not here yet.
Yep, I understand.
So, okay. So we don't have no guarantee on this.
The best we have is the quote that they've given us, and their quoting, part of the quotation was a commitment that the product was delivered by August 20th.
Thank you. And I think looking at the relationship, that's the reason why it's 50% and 100%, because in order for the manufacturer to get it in the time frame that's requested, they're asking for, full payment from the vendor that we're asking for itself. So that makes sense to me. I'm comfortable with it moving forward. So I'm looking on this bid package here. Any other questions, comments, concerns, or looking for a motion from the elected body? Counselor Bearable.
Yeah, I'm going to move the Daniel Paul package to range office supply for the 108 with 100% down. We have the money in the bank, so I'm not worried about that. Correct, Sherry? We don't have to worry. We have money to do this. And that's, that's a quite significant, it's $11,000 savings. So I will move that package to range office supply.
Okay, moved to approve this bid package to range office supply and the amount there. Is there support? Supported by Counselor Barnzelli. So it's been moved by Counselor Baraboo, supported by Counselor Barnzelli to move the Daniel Paul package quote to range office supply in the amount of $108,578.02. Is that what it says?
$570.
Okay, $570. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank
Next
you.
one.
Next one is the KI package.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. Julie, could you just explain what the KI package is one more time and what it would entail to put those items together?
Sure. So this package includes the arena lounges on the kind of the breakout area outside the main lounge. It's a nice big open seating area for breakout as people are kind of circulating in and out of the arena. We also have a similar layout down on the first level in that beautiful stairwell window kind of area for kids waiting for a pickup, for people who want to get a little bit farther away from the event that they might be attending. And then some of this package also kind of marches down the hallway of the event center as well. This is all mostly larger lounge-type pieces, so they're going to come boxed. It's not a complicated installation. Probably the most difficult part of it is ganging the items together. They come with all the parts and pieces for them to be able to accomplish that.
Counselor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. The design team did have some discussion on both of these things, and we did have a little bit of a conversation about which local vendor would maybe be better. I do know that Firelight is working on the concourse and the event center. I also know it's a little bit more, but we also were trying to spread it out a little bit between the local vendors. So I just want to ask the council to take that into consideration moving forward. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Counselor Paulson. For me, is about, we have two local bidders, which is good. Both of them, I'm sure, are outstanding. So it's a decision that we'll have to make, not to pick one over the other. If they're equal in their deal, and yes, I agree, we need to spread it out, but also cost is a consideration as well. So I take both those into account and then rely on the design team moving forward as well. So those are my comments. Any questions, comments, or concerns, or motion by the elected body with respect to the KI package that's on the screen for you today? Counselor Baraboo.
I just have one question for you. With the difference in the bid processes, are the pieces of equipment that were going to be in these different lounge areas, are they comparable and warranted, very similar? Do you know that offhand?
They're actually the exact same product.
Okay,
Yes.
that was mainly where I was going, so they're the exact same product, okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you. We're looking for a motion by the elected body regarding KI package, quote from Range Office Supply and from Firelight Galleries. Counselor Beyondich.
I would make a motion to move forward with Range Office Supply.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to accept the bid on the KI package from Range Office Supply. Is there support for that? Is there support for that?
Support.
Support by Counselor Johnson. Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Julie?
All right, the next package was the miscellaneous items requote. And as Counselor Paulson mentioned, I certainly can provide a breakout of what exactly that is if you'd like to hold on this one and have me come back at a future meeting. Nothing here is critical for
This is
timing.
not time sensitive?
No.
Okay, Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. With the Northern Business Products, what additional other than the fridge is in there?
The big one, Steve, is the folding coat racks and hangers for the event center. And off the top of my head, I can't remember what everything, there were just some other little loose odds and ends in there. But you don't by chance, Britt, have that? Okay. I'm sorry.
Well, as you're looking at that, and maybe we want to hold that in abeyance because it's not time sensitive, just the issue for me, just a point of information that you provided regarding just the individual quote from Northern Business Products for the fridge and the cooler in the boardroom is significantly higher than the two quotes from Gina's and Purpose. I mean, significantly higher. So did Gina's and Purpose TV, they wouldn't have a bid on the coat racks, right?
Correct. No, their quote is just for that beverage cooler.
So my question, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And like in this case, the quotes were not the exact same product. For example, the quote from Northern Business Products, they quoted a Marvel brand beverage cooler, whereas Genia's, oh, thank you. Genia's has a Whirlpool cooler in theirs, and Purpich, I don't remember off the top of my head which brand that was, but this one was based on a performance specification, so we give a base model, which was the Marvel product that Northern Business Products provided the quote on. And then we give the requirements. Okay, it has to be this big. It has to have a warranty of this long. It has to be made to be put inside a cabinet like we're doing. That's a big thing because the fans go out on these things frequently when they're enclosed. So yeah, that's the beauty of requesting competitive quotes when you have the performance information, that vendors can kind of dig into it and pick what they feel is going to give them the best chance to get the quote within those specifications.
And it's interesting to note that Marvel was the base bid. So the question for me and moving forward is to get some additional information that Councilor Paulson is requesting, because it's not time sensitive. So if Marvel is the base bid, are the other two a higher quality or not? So that's for something as well, because if they are higher quality, it's less money. So I think it's prudent for us to take a look at that. So
I can prepare that for you.
would you, and then you had some additional information that Brian passed on to. Did you want to add that to us before we move to take action on this? Or would you like us to go with this first?
Councilor Paulson, the other two items that were in the requote package were the side and coffee tables for the fireplace lounge and the event concourse. Those we did not receive pricing on originally in that very first package that we quoted.
Thank you.
Councilor Paulson.
Do we need to take some action on that, or is that, I mean, I know we can go online and order those directly from the company. It's basically an online product. Anyway, but are you asking, I guess, I didn't know what you were asking me.
It's up to you guys. We can either, we can entertain a motion on this package, or I can come back with further information at the next meeting.
Okay, so
Was that, sorry, thank you,
No, go
Mayor.
ahead.
Was that a recommended accent table from one of the vendors, or was that something that you had recommended? I guess I can't remember.
That came from us.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's still the recommendation going forward?
Yes.
I guess I would be comfortable, if we've already gone out twice and haven't received any, I would be comfortable purchasing those out of our FF&E budget. I'd make that in a motion.
Which items?
The side tables for the, I guess it's the concourse portion, isn't it?
I think if we're not going to act on the entire thing, I would feel more comfortable
just
coming
wait.
back with all of the
Oh,
information.
that's
and-
totally fine with me. That makes sense. Thank you.
And then make a decision kind of all at once for this package.
Yeah, because there was, we're quoting the miscellaneous items. And so when Purpich TV and Genius they don't deal in that.
Correct.
They just deal in the cooler. So if it's a package deal, Northern Business Products is the only one that has the package deal,
I
right?
see, I see,
Right?
yes.
So
So-
I think we need to take a look at that, but it's still concerning to me that if, I think we need to look at separating it out, because when you're asking $3,000 some dollars, which is $2,000 above what the other two quotes are, I think we'd like to have more information about that. So-
Sure. Okay, so I think what I'm hearing is that, are we comfortable with the rest of the products and the pricing from Northern Business Products, and just breaking out the pricing and getting more information for the beverage coolers?
I think you're right, Julie, that's what I would
Right.
recommend. We can go in with the other portion. I don't care about the other portion. It's what the warranties are, what the replacement product is on the coolers is my concern. And you get different lengths of time, and I don't see that in there. So I'd make a motion that we approve the Northern Business Products first portion of the package, exempting the cooler at this point.
Okay, motion on the floor by Counselor Bearable to just take the breakdown miscellaneous item request quote, remove the cooler quotes, and just add the motion to Northern Business Products for the other miscellaneous items. Is there support? Support by Counselor Friedlieb. Is there any further discussion? Counselor Beyondich.
Run that by me again. So we're taking part of this portion and okaying
We're
it?
just removing the cooler portion, and she's gonna come back with the three different, one from the Northern Business, Genius and Perpetua will work on the cooler portion. And she can probably have that ready for our council meeting on Tuesday, I would think.
Yes.
So we have full information. I'm just going with the stuff for that fireplace, lounge furniture, and that portion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we're clear on the motion, Pam? Thank you. Moved and supported. Further discussion? Counselor Paulson.
Thank you. I just, I guess, want to ask one other question, Counselor Bearable. Do you want it to be broken out on the tables too, since those are a non,
No, that I'm going, all that portion is what the motion is approving for Northern.
okay.
Since we haven't had any other bids come back on that, the main thing I'm concerned about is just the cooler portion.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. No action on the cooler portion of it.
You'll bring that back for a council meeting in time for next Tuesday, so we can act on that portion.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we need a motion for that? Okay, thank you.
All right, that's all I have for you today. Thank you.
Julie, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay,
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is to approve the resolution for change order PCO 86 for the MEC regarding a center hung scoreboard.
Brian?
Me again. You'll be tired of seeing me here in a little bit. The other Friday, received notification from Cleveland Cliffs that the grant application that we have been working with Vaha and that Vaha submitted on our behalf has been approved for $150,000 for a center hung scoreboard. Center hung scoreboard is roughly $300,000, so reach back out to Lakehead Construction, and Mr. Mackey said to send him the paperwork to sponsor the other half of that center hung scoreboard. Now, we don't have either of those things in at this time, but as Councilor Baraboo has been pointing out, we are time sensitive on a lot of things, so wanted to go ahead and get the change order worked in so that we can get the center hung scoreboard on order, and hopefully it can be installed before our grand opening of the facility.
So thank you, Brian. Just one quick question. The change order is for the general public's information. So what's the change order entail? Is it a,
The change order is for the addition, the purchase of the center hung scoreboard
thank you. because-
and the installation of it.
Very good. So that was a wish item we had before. Now it is an item looks like it's become a reality. So part of that MEC project is for that change order to purchase that based on the generous contributions on the part of our business community.
Yes.
Thank you.
I would go ahead and make the motion to approve the resolution for change order PCO 86 for the MEC regarding the center hung scoreboard in anticipation of the grant funding and sponsorship.
Thank you. Moved by Counselor Freely. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Good.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is discuss the professional services agreement for the Wellness Center and the RFP for the management of the Wellness Center. This is coming to you from the 5/11/21 council meeting.
Okay, thank you. Brian?
So at the 5/11 council meeting and the committee of the whole before that, staff had directed us to rewrite the proposed memorandum of understanding as a professional service agreement and prepare a request for proposals for the MEC facility health and wellness coordinator. That's really almost two different directives there in one. So I've been focusing on working with the YMCA and in conversation with other communities that have similar agreements with the YMCA. Chad from the YMCA is here today, so I'm going to bring him up to discuss a little bit of the why a lot of other communities have partnered with the YMCA and what the benefit for Virginia to partner with the YMCA would be.
Yeah, I think the question was a cost-benefit analysis issue with respect to revenue streams.
Hello. If you don't remember me, my name is Chad Buggard, CEO of the Mesabi YMCA. Here to talk a little bit about some of the benefits, some of the challenges and benefits that we're facing with the idea of what to do with your wellness center. The YMCA is a unique organization that's prepared and has a long-standing history and comfortability and national stability when running fitness and wellness concept programming as well as centers itself. Some of the things that may not have been in that original proposal that we wanted to make sure we shared with you is that it's not something that's new. We have agreements like this, we have cities that have done projects like this all across the state and nation in success. And one of the biggest things we wanted to highlight was that the benefit of using the YMCA as a nonprofit. One, we have the stability and the capability of running stuff that's in this category very well. It's something we do, it's our forte. But as well as what comes to the benefit of the MEC. One of the benefits to the MEC is in order to use the YMCA, our brand value comes with it. The YMCA nationally, just in 2018, was valued at $8.9 billion in brand value. It's one of the most significant brands you can put on a building anywhere, and if you can incorporate that, it's something that's beneficial. The other thing that was found is that a lot of cities find that it's not in their wheelhouse to run a recreational center. They may not have the infrastructure already in place, they may not have the categories or the idea of what to do with this. So utilizing and collaborating with another agency is usually a very quick, easy, and beneficial. We also do a lot more than what we like to refer to as gym and swim. You'd be supporting a nonprofit agency, a community service agency in your organization and in this city, and allow that collaboration to continue and grow and provide even more service. We reached out, I talked to a few other agencies and a few other cities that have done similar things like this. Some of the challenges that you put towards us to come back and talk to you about are not new. They're exciting, they're good questions that you're asking, but we have a lot of cities that have moved through that already and talked to some other city administrators, a few other city councilors, and a few other marketing agencies to see if this is still holding true. And every one of them resonated that they would gladly provide information to you, the city council, on the benefits of joining and letting a YMCA operate your wellness center. Questions on that before I keep just spouting information off? Because I'm throwing a lot of data out there really quick. And I'm more of a conversationalist.
Okay, we'll just take questions as a break here and until any councilor has a question. First, Councilor Baraboo, and then over to Councilor Paulson. Councilor Baraboo?
Yeah, I'm assuming that with this partnership, with you being what are you, 501c3 or 4, or which one are you?
And we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization recognized by
So
the
this
state of
would
Minnesota.
open up the city to help with more grant processes, I would believe, with that status to add programs in the future if we partner with you folks with the auspice of the city being part of this, gets more clout for these grants and stuff in the future
Yes,
to
it
add
is.
more programs. And I
Yeah.
see that happening, so we can expand as we move forward with this wellness center and et cetera. In the future, we can expand programs. So that's where I'm coming from. So I'm supportive of this venue.
Yes, yes, Councilor Barrow, you're exactly right. With an operating agreement that becomes formalized, and it becomes an extension of the YMCA, so our 501c3 status comes along with it. That's why we refer to in the operating agreements as the YMCA at the MEC. That's that little caveat that allows me to say it's an extension of our organization, and my 501c3 comes with it. As well as the granting process. The YMCA is a national organization, 2,723 YMCA organizations in the United States, hubbed out of YUSA, which is the YMCA of the USA, our national, which allows us a lot of grant opportunities that are not accessible to even most other nonprofits. There's a granting power that comes with that national grant.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. So I guess I have a couple concerns, and I'm trying to remain as calm and professional as I can. When I had originally on May, I want to say it was May 4th, made a motion that it was a combined motion, Brian, and I thought it was very clear. Went and watched both the YouTube videos again, and my motion was, I was concerned about the revenue streams, that the MEC would not be capturing those revenue streams. And the motion was basically that we would write this or rewrite this as a professional service agreement and then go out for requests for quotes, not proposals, but for quotes from any other entity so that we had a baseline level to compare these packages to, or what that management would look like. In the interim, we had a trip and had a discussion on the bus, and it was completely the opposite of what my intention was with the motion. And I have to say, to be honest, I'm a little disappointed with city staff to not take it seriously what my motion was and the intent of that motion. And the intent that I have as a city councilor, as a business person, I look at cash flow. And part of what we are charged with as a city council is to make sure that that MEC cash flows properly. When the YMCA would be, it would basically be, like you had stated, the YMCA at the MEC. The Y would be capturing all of that revenue, all the hidden costs that we had discussed with our city finance director. None of those are addressed. I'm assuming there would be a fee for the city would be paying the Y to manage the facility. Is that correct? As we had discussed, we had kind of unraveled that with the salary. So to me, it's not being prudent to not explore other options in terms of what other facilities could also offer that are local facilities. Then we received an email from our city administrator on Friday, almost at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was a little taken aback by that because it gave us no opportunity to research or to understand what the capabilities are. So this morning I reached out to the Office of Management and Budget. This morning I did not receive a phone call back, but I did reach out to George Eilertson, and he did respond quickly. And it's an attorney question, but there is nothing necessarily precluding us from having to go to a nonprofit. There is that element in terms of the grant process that we would be able to enter into. But when I look at this from a cash flow perspective, I look at the membership costs that the Y currently has, and then membership of the Supreme Court, membership of Anytime Fitness, membership fees at Snap Fitness, at New Trends. So I went and I did all that research, and the Y is well underneath that. So I feel, in my perspective, we're losing a revenue generation. And according to George Eilertson, and we do have to confirm this, but there is a section regarding the GO bonds that we have that allow for something called bad use. And there's a certain percentage of the total facility that can overall be considered a bad use. And if you are underneath that bar, so you can generate revenue. That wellness center can generate a revenue that would not trigger a payment to the commissioner. And Britt, I'm not sure if you were aware of that, because that's the question that you were asking on Friday. So I'm surprised that those questions weren't asked between the time of the directive that we voted, not only on the committee of the whole, but also at the council level. And again, I feel like the directive or the intent was bypassed and not read the way that I had stated it originally. So with that being said, we've already made a motion. It was already approved to go forward for requests for quotes and rewrite of professional services agreement. So I'm really not sure why we're here discussing this again when the motion was to go out for a request for quotes.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Paulson. So I have a question. Anybody else on it? I have a question. The concern that I have is in part related to the revenue stream itself. You know, having these daily use, people paying for daily use, how often that would happen, I don't know. We don't have a projection of how that works. But I'm concerned about the revenue stream as well. Regardless of who is going to manage our wellness center, whether it's the YMCA, whether it's Anytime Fitness, or whether some other entity altogether to do that. The question is that, you know, the purchase of the equipment, the maintenance of the equipment, and all the facilities that were there is the responsibility of the MEC. Also, in addition to that, we're paying a salary or to the YMCA for operating that. I think from my perspective, the opposite should be true. That if you want to operate a facility as a YMCA, as a 501c3, you would pay the City of Virginia to operate an extension of your YMCA in that regard. So any revenue stream that's generated would come from the rent, or the monthly rent, or the annual agreement, or whatever comes through. And I think that would hold true for any other potential individual or business who would want to run the MEC. And the request for quotes that Councilor Paulson was asking for, they're actually quotes to run the MEC. Therefore, the quote would be for that entity to actually pay for that space in the MEC, so we have a revenue stream moving forward. And that's the I can't get over that hurdle right now myself, because I just think that I don't think we're getting the biggest bang for our buck. Yes, it's a collaborative with the community. Yes, the YMCA is a great organization. But for me, it's about, you know, what's best for our community. So the brand of YMCA is very popular. You had indicated, Chad, that, you know, what the value of that is. The same thing could be held true for any other fitness organization that maybe want to operate the MEC. Collaborating with the YMCA is a great community effort. I know that we do on a regular basis, and other areas and other communities do the same. But I think in this particular instance, we have a space available at the MEC, and we're looking to establish a revenue stream for the operation and administration of the MEC, and the Wellness Center will need a way in which to accomplish that, because if we're providing the training, we're providing the equipment and maintaining the equipment, whatever is going to be in there, that's a cost that we have. We have to recapture that cost somehow, whoever's going to run it, unless the private entity comes in. They pay us the fee, they put in all the equipment, they take good care and maintain it, and to the standard that we require. And I think that makes sense as well. So I can't get over that hurdle about revenue. So if you, just for a moment, if you could just touch on what revenue does the MEC actually get from this particular proposal that the YMCA, through the YMCA and the MEC.
Start, and Brian, I can start, and Brian can chime in.
And then we'll go to Councilor Beyond it. Thank you.
First off, revenue stream. From a professional in this business, let's put it out there real quick that the revenue stream concept, it will probably not break even. It is a very hard business in the recreational field. It'll be very difficult to make any money. Your wellness center at its size and shape and capability is not going to be a cash cow for the MEC. I ran my own pro formas to decide whether the Y could even do it, because there's a lot of risk for the Y to come in there. At our price point, we can operate the Y considerably better than any other for-profit agency. And maybe we're asking for $20,000 a year to support the Y in that process, but that's a minimum that I would need to make it balance out on my budget, even to move in there, and I'm a 2,000 member base organization. When we look at this and talk about these numbers, some of the other numbers that we save too, our agency brings you $50,000 to the table in your price quotes. I can buy that equipment at about $50,000 savings to you guys that nobody else in this community will be able to do, or at least at that level of what we're looking at right now. So you got that kind of difference there. But really, I'm looking at my end, $150,000 worth of staffing, HR, and everything that goes with just that, not counting the equipment in order to run that in a year. That equates in my price point at $41 for an adult membership, so I have a single adult membership at $41. That's 300 new memberships just to break even on the staff that I would have to put over there at my price point, which is considerably lower than most. When you add that up, you got 300 members. We were a 3,000 member base pre to COVID-19. Those numbers are slowly increasing as COVID-19 gets towards the end of its table. But when you look at a 17,000 person community, which is 15-minute drive around our Y, which is data I can provide and support to you if you'd like, but that's ages 0 to 95, 17,000 people. Obviously, we don't have anybody pre-13, 14 years old that can really functionally use what's designed at the MEC. And then when you get into the older category, the equipment that's going in there has a little more base towards a middle-age demographic or sports and athletics. And the balance that we would be able to provide would be able to provide access to facility equipment in 2 different locations that would be balanced differently for the community to find the equipment that works for them. To Councilor Paulson's note, yes, we are very low priced. It is the mission of the YMCA that we are open for all. We do not ever turn a single person away for financial reasons to access to the YMCA or financial reasons, ever. We will find a way to figure it out. It doesn't necessarily mean we're giving it away, but we will balance it. We work with each and every individual to make sure it's accessible. That's something that doesn't come with a for-profit company. We will make this accessible to the community at all costs. But when we look at that total cost, when I put the 4 formulas for the YMCA, decide whether I even want to be here to ask about this, my bare bones minimum looks at, we're not going to make money off this. We can't make money off this. It's really tough. I cannot make money off of my current facility. And I would have a 2-to-1 ratio of equipment in my facility as we upgrade this year as well. So accessibility is even more increased in the MEC. And when you add that together, it's really going to be tough to decide that this is going to make money. Our goal would be to break even. Our goal would be able to cover the costs. So the Y is really poised to help the MEC survive, help the MEC get into opening, get it running and going, and we can bring it at a much bigger savings than any other organization probably would. But that due diligence hasn't been done yet, I get that. I could just say what I'm able and capable of doing, and you'd have to balance that against anyone else that might come up.
As far as from the city operating the facility, if the city were to go alone, I had already provided you the cost estimates for staffing for that facility. Then also add in the depreciation for equipment and management software for the memberships and everything. If we were to, and this council, from what I understand, wants this facility to be as accessible to the public as possible, which in my mind means the lowest rates possible. If we were to match the YMCA's rates for us to recover our operating cost, we are going to need approximately 550 members. Now, Chad just said for him to recuperate his costs, he's at about 300 new members. So we're adding another 250 more members. I don't know if we have that additional population in the area that would support this facility without negatively impacting another fitness facility that is in our area. I believe that the agreement with the YMCA is the best possible agreement that we can have moving forward. Our city administrator has put together at the council's request a request for proposals for other fitness facilities to come in. But keep in mind that this council has said that we want to keep this facility affordable and accessible to the public. And as we have seen from various fitness facility price points, the YMCA is one of the most affordable organizations that we could partner with.
Thank you very much, Brian. Question first for Councilor Beyondich, and then over to Councilor Paulson. Councilor Beyondich.
And I would echo pretty much what you had just stated earlier. I did have some feedback on the proposal for this, and the community members in my neighborhood were not happy having to purchase a membership through the Y in order to use the MEC. They wanted to be able to just use the MEC in that facility only. So they had a real, I tried to explain to them, and they had a real hard time with that. So I am not completely comfortable moving forward on this either. I think we have a lot of things we need to iron out and more information that we need to see how this would work for the citizens and our taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Beyondich. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. And Chad, I really appreciate the representation that you represent the Y. I truly do. That does bring into concern in terms of how the management of the Y is currently, that it can't cash flow. That just as a business owner, it always concerns me. And I would agree that we want everybody to be able to use this facility, but it is a state-of-the-art, going to be brand new. Everything is brand-new facility. So to me, we do need to iron out a lot more detail. And Chad, again, I have nothing to compare to what you're stating. I have nothing to compare. And in part of my discussion with going out for a request for quote, it was not proposal, it was a quote, was specifically that we would be receiving financials and that we would understand what those financials would look like from whether it's the Y or any other entity, so that the city can make the most fiscally conscious decision for our tax base. Who's really given us the grace of building this beautiful facility. Now it's up to us to understand, we've got to make sure it cash flows. I know our finance director had just discussed a lot of those hidden costs, but kind of going back to the committee of the whole from the 4th and then the meeting on the 11th, we had already approved all this, had we not, Pam, in terms of going out for submitting these quotes, and that's already been passed. So I don't know why we're at this point. Right now, at this point, it's already been passed, so it should go into effect that this is what the expectations are to go out for the requests. That's what was moved and supported. So I don't know why we're coming back to this point now.
I have a clarification, if I may, Councilor Paulson. I think what I'm hearing is that what the RFP I proposed is not even correct. What I'm hearing is that you guys want to do a lease agreement. The one I proposed was that we would obtain all the membership fees and we would pay them to run it. Whereas I'm hearing that you guys are wanting, they keep all the fees and they just pay us a lease.
And I'm not convinced on that portion.
I'm just wondering the question.
When I made the intentive motion was that we would write a professional services agreement, an entity would come in and manage, and then whatever that revenue stream, maybe it's a shared revenue stream. But I think that bar, we do need to talk, I shouldn't even say that. I would like to hear or see submissions from entities to take a look at what that cash flow looks like and how we can in fact operate with some profit with that bad use clause in there. Yep. There is a percentage that we can make a profit, and it doesn't have to be turned over to the commissioner for bond payments or to pay down the bond. There's a certain percentage of that facility, and it was already discussed with, I think Baker, who's our attorney? Mia Thibodeau. Freiberger and Buchanan, when that bond went out, that there was discussion of a management within the arena portion, and George thought this could potentially be in the arena because it's within that
portion. Yep.
It's in that same location. But my intent of the motion that was passed and approved and then moved on to the council was that we would find a management company and then we would look at what that revenue stream is. I still feel like we would do better, and maybe we do an analysis. Mm-hmm. Maybe we do an analysis whether, we let somebody come and lease the space from us and what that would look like monthly, guaranteed monthly revenue generation, or we put it out and we say what is all these other fitness companies, including the Y, what are they going to offer? And then maybe it's a membership sharing percentage type situation. But in order for me to make a properly informed decision, I need to have that information, and that's what was asked to be done. So in my opinion, what should have been coming here this morning was to discuss the rewriting of the contract and the request for quote. So I guess, I don't know what I need to do, but legally, we've already passed this. So what needs to be done here to move
I
forward?
would like a motion on on the RFP that's in your packet, if you want it changed, or if you want to go it like it is, or how you would like it to go.
Yeah, I think the goal and objective here was to, this is something we've been considering and looking forward to the prior presentation by staff and through the YMCA. And I think there's a dual process here. Your motion and support was to move forward with that. That should continue to move forward. In addition, this was brought forward to discuss, not to approve, just to discuss and get some more clarification about where we're at, so we can all vet out what we want to do as far as the request for quotes are. So the question would be, what do we want in those requests for quotes? What exactly do we want? And so I would refer back to you, Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think that's why I was surprised to see item number 4 is the professional service agreement between the YMCA. Like, that's not what the motion was. The motion was to draft a professional services management contract agreement and then to go out for RFQs is what I had stated, request for quotes. And I would assume it's not a request for proposal, it's a request for quote because it's a professional service. Is that not correct? Or are they synonymous?
Brian?
It could be either one.
Okay, so I don't know we've already passed this, so what do we need to do to move forward? Again,
What I'd like to do, if I may, Councilor Paulson, hold that potential motion change the, what we're asking for here. If you could hold that in abeyance just for a moment, so we can allow Councilor Freelieb and Councilor Bearwood to comment, would that be all right?
yes, but I want it stated on the record, it's been moved, supported, and passed.
Yes, and we'll make it for you, ask Pam, and she did confirm it was moved and supported in that vein. That is correct.
So then to discuss what Britt is, or our city administrator is asking,
Okay, go
I
ahead.
think what we came here to do today was to write a professional services agreement. The way this is written, I would make a motion that I direct city staff to go back and rewrite as a professional services agreement, and then obviously the dates would change on the request for quote, the RFP, or unless you want to keep it to June 30th.
Luann,
It's, yeah.
before you do that, can you give us the courtesy of discussing ahead of this before we go back to your
Yes,
original?
certainly.
That's what I was asking before.
Certainly.
Before the motion
I'm
is
sorry, I
made.
was just trying to address her question.
I'm right on your frequency there. So let's go ahead and hear from Councilor Freelieb, then Councilor Bearwood, and then we'll go back to that if we may. Councilor Freelieb.
I guess we were a bit of a step ahead in my mind too with regard to where we're at in anticipation of what we want to get accomplished at the MEC. I thought too that we were going to be seeking RFP from other entities and be exploring those other options that may be available to us. In my mind, however, I don't think that there's a more viable brand for our extended community to partnership with and collaborate with than the YMCA, to be honest with you. I can't think of any other partnership or collaboration in this immediate community, surrounding community, that would be better suited to maximizing the utilization of our wellness facility in an appropriate and healthy manner than through the YMCA, but I don't know that yet because I haven't heard from anybody else that may be able to come forward and give me that information. The other thing that I think we need to at least consider is the potential for in-kind services. My understanding is, for example, there are other facilities in the region that have been able to have sponsorships with name right types of sponsorships that then have provided in-kind services such as athletic training as well as weight training and overseeing facilities in those internal facilities such as the wellness centers and those. So I think in the RFP that would also be something we would consider when we put that out there, when we're looking for sponsorships, what else can be done besides providing us a monetary amount to support that center, but what other kind of in-kind services could be provided in a professional sense from training and wellness perspective. It is also a little bit disheartening to hear that we can at best break even with this type of facility, because it is pretty important that the MEC, as we've been intending, will be a revenue-producing facility. But the reality may be the numbers in this community could be such that, regardless of additional memberships, that it may be a break-even type situation for the utilization of this facility. But ultimately and ideally, we'd like to see something much more so than that. Whether that's a reality remains to be seen, and that could come through from other potential entities that come forward to provide some kind of information beyond what we've heard. But I do appreciate you coming, Chad, and I do, there's a lot of respect with the YMCA and your running of it and the programs that you provide, and having that collaboration with the city of Virginia, I think would be beneficial in the long run. But I still want to hear what else is out there before we make a final decision as to which way we want to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Freely. Councillor Bearable?
Yeah, I'm going to be very, very straightforward with this whole council. We're not being realistic at all in this process. Number one, you take a look at the history of the old Miners Memorial Complex and stuff that we've had. We've never broken even on any of our recreation programs across the years. We've always put money from the city into these programs. There's been never a straight breaking even in dollars. Now, are we here just to make this a money-making operation, or are we here for the community also? That's a question. We're putting new programs in. We've never had weightlifting programs in this community that we've charged dollars for. We've never had other things, dance programs that we've charged dollars. We charge stuff for figure skating, for using for hockey, et cetera, all those. But our softball programs, all these other programs, they don't break even. Are we here for our community and the membership that we have for recreation, for the youth, et cetera, in this community? I don't care if we go out for these RFPs, but if we do this, that RFP has to state the purpose is what we want to look at, all the different programs we're going to be looking at in an RFP, not just for them to come back with nilly-willy RFPs with different things that they can accomplish. They got to be specific on this RFP. I am an individual that this community expects everything to be free. That MEC is not going to be free. It wouldn't be free if you're using other programs, softball, baseball, youth baseball, any of those programs, they all charge money for, but they never break even. We do all the maintenance, we do all the other stuff as a community. That's what the taxpayers pay dollars for these things in this community. And I hate to say this, but we're not going to break even on recreational programs through that unless we put together AAA hockey programs, other things. The main thrust is for the convention center on that, not the recreation end of it that's going to make money for us. That's where I'm coming from. Because that's where you're going to make the money, because you can charge what you want based on the fee schedules to make money. You're not going to make it on recreation in this community. You don't have enough people here to do that, unless we get outside people from other communities coming in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bear. Well, before we go back to Councillor Paulson for that long-awaited motion, I just want to say that, when the MEC was operating, all the revenues from the MEC went into our general fund. None of it went into a special fund, none of it went into a dedicated fund. All the money, the revenue that's generated from the MEC is going to be going into a dedicated fund for the operation and administration of the MEC. We're not going to draw from our budget with respect to that. That's the purpose of the 1% sales tax. That's the purpose of the way we're setting things up. And this is another example with respect to this. So we're not looking for being a cash cow. We're not looking to glean revenue from our community. We want to make sure that we continue to operate and administer that MEC so everybody can use it for whatever entity or whatever event they want. And so that's all part of the secondary portion of that is recreation programs are separate from the MEC. The baseball programs, all these other summer recreation ones come out of our general budget, comes out of the park and rec budget. That does. So we're talking about one specific area of the wellness center, and I understand where Councilor Bearable is coming from. We have an obligation to our community to provide that, but the recreation programs are separate. This is part of park and recreation. The wellness center. It's in addition to something we haven't had before. So I think it's important for us to continue to vet this out. And I think we're all under the understanding that, with YMCA as a professional organization, we understand that. I see what the proposal is. But once again, if we're looking at operating the MEC, whether you're breaking even or not, the issue is paying $20,000 a year, for the operation of that, and whatever else expenditures we have with respect to that is something I need to see a little bit more of, number one, and number two, just to look at what the other options are out there, just for the sake of options. And so that's where I'm at. So, Counselor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. In light of what Counselor Friedlieb is maybe saying as well, as Counselor Beyondich and you as well, Mayor, maybe we should put together what our thoughts are, what's important to go forward on this request for quotes, so that we can narrow it down and truly understand what it is we're asking to be put in there, if that would be okay. And I don't need to know if that needs to be made a motion, but the original motion from the committee to the council, that still stands. So this is about actually rewriting the request for quote to make sure that we're all comfortable with the language within it, that we're covering all the bases. I would also, maybe we email Britt what we want in there. I would request for financials from any of the entities that would come forward. And then in terms of what our expectations are, is it a lease agreement or what? So I think we still need to dig a little bit deeper into this. But again, what was already passed and moved and passed is already done. So thank you.
Thank you,
And
Counselor.
does that need to be a motion? Okay.
Stick with the original motion.
Thank you.
Just with the clarification that if you can get the information to me by Monday next week, I can get this out on Tuesday, and the dates would still be fine, everything would go okay, and I can.
And then I would also like to include maybe some of our bond, if there's bond people that need to be involved with any criteria. I just got one perspective this morning, and just as we were talking, the Office of Management and Budget just called me back. So, but I think we just need to explain it properly, what we're trying to accomplish, and then what we can do within those parameters. It seems like those parameters, as long as we're under that certain percentage of bad use of the facility, we can in fact generate some sort of a profit. So that's the information I received today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Paulson. So, Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor Paulson, I appreciate your clarification because those are some questions. I guess one of the questions I would have is, we submit this information to Britt, then does the council need to approve the actual request that's going out, or are we going to allow the staff to put out the request?
I would like us to review it and approve it. That's what we had come to this meeting for today.
Because there is the request in here. I guess I'm just kind of at a loss because I think we're asking two different questions. The question we're asking of a nonprofit in general as opposed to a corporate office, I think are two different questions on how that looks. And I think the proposal would need to give leeway for both of those. Maybe there's another nonprofit that wants to start doing fitness and community rec. Or maybe there's an individual in the community who wants to run their own business. So I guess I'm just, that's what I've been processing as I'm sitting here listening, that I think you're spot on, Councilor Paulson. The seven of us don't know what we really want in this building and how it looks. And so I appreciate that you're asking for input for Britt, with the idea that we would approve at the council meeting on Tuesday night the actual request, or is it going to be put out? I'm just looking for a time frame.
Time frame that's in the packet was counting on Tuesday's approval. So if it's approved Tuesday, we would be fine with the time frame, and we can move along from there.
So is getting emails to you by Monday enough time for us to review it overnight for Tuesday, or can
Great
we?
question. You can do it Friday, if that's fine.
I just want, if we're gonna, my concern is we get it Monday, even Monday morning at 9 o'clock. How many of us are gonna have time before Tuesday at 5:30 to actually sit down and read it? So I just wanna make sure that our expectation is realistic from your part, but also on our part on the ability to review it and make notes and get back to you. And also knowing that maybe it doesn't get approved at the council meeting on Tuesday night, because of that. So I understand what we're trying to do, but I also understand the reality of running a nonprofit in northern Minnesota on the Iron Range. So I hope that as we move forward with this, we get it right again the first time. And I am comfortable with the previous motion and leaving that stand with staff to work accordingly. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may just respond to Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you. So from the findings that I just kind of have been digging out recently is it's not requirement to have a nonprofit. There is no requirement there.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm just saying, Councilor Paulson, I'm totally agreeing with you, but when whomever it is, it could be an individual wishing to start a new business. So there
I
would be
would think
something to
anybody
be.
that
yeah.
has a business license could come forward and submit. But I just wanted to clarify that. That was part of the discussion that I had. And I hate to belabor this. As long as we're going to the drawing board again, somebody had made a comment like, what is it at St. Scholastica? Is it the Burns Wellness Center, I think it is? That it would be the city's entity to actually name or keep it out there for naming rights, so that it's just a management type of a contract that we're looking forward, but we could still sell type of a naming right. And that was one thing that was brought forward to me in terms of how other places, and namely it was colleges, have named their wellness centers, and it must be some sort of an endowment or a sponsorship from either a family or a company like Brian is getting right now. So that's just something I don't know if we could put in the part of that discussion. It was just kind of brought forward this weekend. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Paulson. Councilor Freely.
Again, I guess I'm of the mind, like, I'm still interested in hearing what else is out there. I really think that that's necessary and important. But I also want to state, yes, the 7 of us, Councilor Johnson, really don't know what we need or want in that facility. But these 2 guys are professionals in that position. And the 2 people before us right now, I don't think you can find 2 people better to be providing us the information we're seeking. There's additional information we can hear about, I'm sure. But these 2 guys are the ones that are kind of go-to in our community, in my mind, because I don't know those other entities yet. So I'd like to hear from them. But I really think that the direction we would be going with would be to have the kind of expertise, experience, and professionalism that's provided by the 2 guys that are presenting this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Freely. Just one final comment from me. For me, it's about the cost. That's all it is for me. I don't care who's running it, frankly. As long as it's run professionally, as long as it's run, for me, it's about the cost. So let's see what else is out there, see what other options that we have moving forward. Then the 7 of us can come, be better educated and better understanding what we need. So thank you. Anything else from the council? Anything else from you, Chad? Anything you'd like to add? Anything you'd like to offer? Any other comments?
Just to highlight, since it sounds like you're doing your own homework, which is great. I'm glad you're asking those questions of the community. It's important. Just be aware that I'm also involved in the community. I don't think the community truly understands what's left in the MEC, what they actually have up there. And that's where my pro forma came from. I was involved in the MEC project from the very first community meetings and worked with and helped provide data to ISG and those folks. And it started out as a much bigger community component as components got pulled and taken away. And when I look at it as a pro forma for a wellness center, that's all that's left. There is no child care space or child watch space. There is no gymnasium space. There is no teen or child play space. Some of the things that were part of the projects, and I've been part of a lot of large projects over the years in my career, and that happens. So what we got left with, what is still there, what is being put in there, will be very, very difficult to run at a profit. I never challenged that you couldn't make a profit on something. It's whether I'm challenging that it's going to be very difficult to make a profit. And even at my price points as a nonprofit, I can't see the profit margin. And that's what I want to make sure that you understand. And as you tell people about the MEC and their challenge to the YMCA membership, it really doesn't matter to me if there's a Y, a W, or an X on the membership card. I just happen to put a Y on my card. They don't ever have to touch my facility proper as a Y. But the membership comes with a lot of benefits. It supports the nonprofit organization in your community. It also provides national reciprocity. Any that comes in that card will only be good, or that whatever membership structure you come up will only be good at wherever they're from. And if it's a smaller entity like our, John Smith and Jane Doe fitness centers, that's what they'll get. It's just the MEC. I provide that opportunity for families to be a part of and use these particular facilities. I'm going to have a difficult time programming that space at a profit margin with only the capability of basically older kids on up in individual concepts. And then, like I said, I just want to emphasize, because they're talking. I have the community talking to me too. They were talking to me in the very beginning about what this would do to the YMCA if it went through, and I supported saying, this is a benefit to the community, and we've always been that. Even if it's a loss on our part, we support and strengthen our community in all aspects, which is why I put the time in for the MEC. But our community still doesn't know what they have left in there. They haven't seen those pictures. Have they been floating around? Do they understand what we're talking about? They just got put together by Brian and I. So they understand exactly what would come with just going to the MEC, as opposed to a bigger picture, which is what my 60,000-foot level for this community is. Some sort of, and if it's not the Y, fine, we'll support it. We want the community to strengthen, but there's got to be a big 60,000-foot picture here that allows a small community like ours, with small communities that are only a few miles apart, to have a single solitary source to bounce around. All right, so you can use whatever membership structure you have going to the MEC, to the Y, and any other future community components that might pop up in the future from the great development that hopefully this spurns. And the YMCA is poised to do that and capable of doing it. But if you need more data, let me know. Olson's point on, and Friedlich's point on bringing in entities, the YMCA is deeply rooted in the healthcare industry with collaborations. The YMCA at the Essential Wellness Center in Hermantown is a collaboration between the city, the YMCA, and Essentia Health. But I can tell you the city and all those healthcare industries don't want to run a wellness center. They'll support it, they'll build it, they don't want to run it. But those are there, and we have deep-rooted relationships with those, with Essentia, with Fairview, with St. Luke's, to spurn and help that process. But that's stuff that's going to take a while. It's not going to happen very quickly. Those are conversations and discussions and collaborations with those entities that just take a long time. But a possible revenue stream.
Ask a question.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Freely.
If we go the direction we're talking with the RFP for other outside for-profit entities, does that exclude them?
No.
Or would you be involved in that? Well, as a nonprofit organization, can you be involved in that?
Yes, I can.
Okay. And
But-
will you be? That's what I'm worried about, is
No.
are you going to backpedal away from this and your board's going to say, move away?
I can comfortably say today that if there's a leasing structure where I'm paying to use the space, I know I can't capture the revenue back, and as a nonprofit, my fiscal responsibility is to my organization and the community. I wouldn't be a part of it. I can't. My pro formas that I've done and run the numbers will not support that. Even though I would still love to be there, I fought for this place and used the YMCA to its best advantages for this entire community. But if there's a leasing structure or something like that, I can tell you now, I know it's not affordable. It would
Be a profit sharing type of arrangement?
Well, and what we have in there, if you would have, what I noticed in there is if at any point in time, the YMCA were running this and we got to a point where we met our costs, the money that's exceeded past that would have an agreed upon percentage that goes into a fund. My CFO is already fully comfortable with this, that supports the MEC. So you can be guaranteed that any money we make after the costs on excess memberships, maybe I make 900 memberships. I mean, that would be phenomenal, okay? A percentage or whatever we agree upon with that would be going into a fund that directly supports the costs of the MEC. If that makes everyone more comfortable about where that money was going. Because I'm still running that place, I still need to maintain that place. It still goes there, rather than the general fund of the YMCA. Things like that.
Okay, we have a Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. And just reading through the, it's on page 2 of 6 on the RFQ. All requests and all questions and requests for clarifications should be directed in writing to the Park and Rec Director, Brian Silber. No direct contact or solicitations of any kind will be allowed with any other city employee, including members of the City Council, as the respondent may then be then disqualified and their proposal not reviewed and sent back unopened. Again, Brian Lindsay, I'm going to have to ask you to come forward publicly and state what you and I had a discussion in private, that city councilors are allowed to go out and have conversations, to have discussions, and to send emails, not getting a bid or not soliciting anything, but I need that clarified right now.
Yeah, and the opinion that I had given you is that as part of your role as a city council member, you can go out and do research, you can inform yourself. And that this is one of those areas that becomes a gray area from time to time, because the question, the concern always is whether the statements and conversations you have create some sort of an expectation on the party with which you're having them. And the best practice always is for those types of things, anytime that there's going to be an opportunity or potentially a contract, the best practice is always to just say, there may be there may be an opportunity available, contact the city administrator, contact the appropriate staff. So to the extent that you're informing yourself to discharge your duty as a city council member, to be informed on the issues facing the city, it's appropriate. To the extent that you're discussing the details of any
Correct.
transaction, it would be a best practice to avoid those at all
So
costs.
just to clarify what's in here, because I've had several conversations. So I want that language stricken unless I'd like Brian to redraft that draft that language in there, that if there was any specific communication that occurred, then that would be the case. But if it was generalities, that I was asking questions regarding membership fees or, what would this look like? That type of thing. So I feel like that's a little bit directed at me, and I really feel
Common
that,
language in all our RFPs, actually.
okay. But
we
last
can-
time
we
I got
can-
called on the carpet for it.
We can tone it down so it doesn't
Yeah.
seem so, yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to be very clear that that is our duty as a city council person, to go out and have those conversations so we can bring back the best possible things to our community.
I don't mean to jump on you, Brian, is that it's trying to avoid collusion or something
Correct.
like that. So we're just trying to avoid conflict of interest is the intent of the language. It's in all of our RFPs, all of our RFQs, all of our whatever, so that they're calling one person and not calling me, and then calling Brian, and then calling Pam, and then calling Sherry,
Which is what happened with our furniture discussion.
which
So,
is what happens, exactly.
yep, and I want that to be crystal clear that I would never be a part of that. And data practices, my email is wide open. So that's all I'd like to say on that.
Okay, I think, so I think the goal and objective of this language, we're getting off topic here. The goal and objective of this language is to make sure that any information we glean, whatever information we research on our own, it stays within the parameters of what's required under the law. I think the language is fine the way it is, without due respect, and that any additional information that you have, anything you come, instead of coming to the elected body, it goes to our city administrator staff so they can vet it out, put it together, so we all have that information at one time, so it's not
It's
sprung
not
upon
saying
us.
that the council can't go out and talk. It's saying that if they call you, they don't call 15 different people and get 15 different answers and come in with something totally not what we are looking for. They're going to one location, getting one answer, the same answer over and over again, so that everybody has the same information.
Can I make a comment, Mayor?
So
Can I make a comment on this
I would
legal
like to
thing?
finish, go ahead. I just wanted to finish my thought, but go ahead, Councilor Bearable.
People don't understand how this works, okay? If you go out for RFPs, okay, and we do this, and I don't have an objection to this, you cannot comment. If an entity that's going to submit their RFP to you, and they call you and ask opinions, you shut up, don't say a word. You have no right until that RFP date is set and when it has to be, and once it's set and received, then you can go out and talk to anybody about these RFPs and the questions. Up until that time, yes, then it's all referred to staff on this. You cannot, otherwise you're violating meeting laws on that, correct, Brian?
Yeah, the big concern always is with these, that if the folks that are making or submitting proposals, if they're having contact with the different city officials, the concern always is that something would be misunderstood, or that somebody would represent that they achieved some advantage in the process by having contact. And whether that's substantiated or not, it always is that appearance of a conflict that creates issues for us.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Bearable. Okay, so we've had significant conversation. We know the direction we want to go. We'll have some information based upon the motion moving forward for us to consider at our Tuesday meeting.
Correct. And if everybody can get their information to me by Friday, earliest Friday would be possible.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
So anything else on this particular topic? Want to thank you, Chad, for coming in. Appreciate your time and efforts here. Thank you, Brian, for moving forward. So we'll get some additional information and be able to take a look at it and hopefully take some action or at least discuss it at the next council meeting. So that being said, one final comment, anything from you regard to that? So, okay, so thank you very much. Before we move on to the next item, this has been a long and arduous discussion, which was prudent to do so, but let's take a 5-minute break and then come back and finish up. So thank you.
Right, Pan.
We're just taking a break. You're the next topic. So we're right back.
Well, who's on the phone?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Are we all back? Oh, we'll wait one more, just a couple more minutes. Okay, after a short break, we're now back in session, moving to item number 7 on the agenda for under Building and Grounds. Britt?
We're under item number 5, under buildings and
I'm
grounds.
sorry, number 5, excuse me.
Approve the resolution finding a building substandard, and this is in relation to the existing Miners Memorial Building. We are attempting to create a redevelopment district in that area, and one of the tools to do that is to create a to correct a blighted situation. And so this resolution is deeming the existing miners a blighted building, as per the report you'll find in your packet from LHB Engineers. This allows us to create a redevelopment district that allows us to do a repurposing and renovation of that area for 3 years from the date of the resolution. This does not tie us to any one project in particular or any one person in particular. This just gives us that ability and latitude to do anything we might need to do in the next 3 years on that location. On the phone, we do have Tammy Omdahl from Northland Securities, if you have any questions.
Tammy, good morning, and thank you for your patience.
Good morning.
Good morning. Could you just give us a little bit of an overview, please?
Yes, I'm Dahl from Northland Securities. So as explained, should the council seek to pass this resolution, preserves the authority to establish a TIF redevelopment district at a future date, and the maximum term that you would have to establish that district is 3 years, as stated by Britt. And so again, by approving this, you are simply giving yourself the ability to consider the establishment of a TIF district. It does not compel you to do anything other than preserves that authority. So happy to answer any specific questions you may have.
Thank you. That was a good clarification on our behalf. Let's take a look at the council. Does anybody have any questions, comments? First, we'll start with Councilor Freely, and then over to Councilor Bearable, and then to Councilor Johnson. Councilor Freely.
Well, as someone that wanted to believe in his heart that this building was not substandard, I guess I have to move forward in the knowledge that it is, based on the analysis that I read and the evaluation that was done. And I would even make the motion to move forward with the approval of the resolution, finding the building substandard, to move forward with what we need to do on behalf of the MEC project.
I'll support that, Mayor, with, for discussion.
Okay, moved by Councilor Freely and supported by Councilor Bearable for discussion, the approval of the resolution regarding the establishment of this redevelopment district. Is moved and supported. Further discussion. First, Councilor Bearable, and then over to Councilor Johnson.
Yeah, the reason I want to discuss this, I had a conversation with Britt because I'm concerned, I'm one of the ones that helped us get rid of all the TIFs in the past when we went to tax abatements. This is not a typical TIF that you read. We can do anything we want. It just preserves the rights, as the gal from the organization just told us. So I don't have an issue with this, because we can still go back to tax abatements where we want if we develop this property. So I have no issue, but this is a good tool for us to find dollars and other things when we redevelop this. So I'm all supportive of this particular project.
Thank you, Councilor Bearable. Councilor Johnson. We're good? Okay, so it's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. In preparation for this, the council did take the tour in what could be a potential partner on this location. The question that I have is the lot or the acreage there, the exact amount that would be needed for the footprint that we will be discussing, and I'm assuming that that actually has to be right where the footprint of the existing miners is, meaning that we couldn't extend that out in case there was hotels or something coming forward in the future, or can that, and I don't know, sorry, that's my phone again. Is that something that can be expanded upon, or does it have to have specific parameters within the square foot of the current footprint of the miners being torn down?
Britt, is it in my understanding, and to answer Councilor Paulson's question, when I was reading the documents, doesn't that include the development? That's the entire development district, but because it's a substandard building, we can put that down to establish not only just that footprint, but beyond that. Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct. We can go beyond that, but this specific resolution deals with the property where the building is located. And so there are other parcels that we do own along there that we could include in the redevelopment district when we create that district.
So that wouldn't be until creation of that redevelopment district that would take
Correct,
place? Okay,
correct.
but it is an option
It's an option.
going forward as we move into different agreements with different entities?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. This specific parcel just encompasses the two buildings.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Paulson. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is approve the surplus sale items for Park and Recreation.
I know we just completed a surplus sale for the city, but wanted to be able to do an online surplus sale for items that are in the miners building that we are not taking with us that still have a good resale value. I've been in contact with DoBid Auctions, who is the company that did the auction for the school last year. It's my understanding that the city has also used them in the past. They are willing to do a surplus auction. You have a list of items in your packet. Would request that we add to that list the main arena boards and glass. That is a set of dasher boards. Actually, it's 3 different sets of dasher boards that have been put together. I don't know if there's much resale value in that, but I have had several people interested in the glass that would accompany it. But essentially what we are putting up for auction in this would be the old scoreboard from the miners, the 3 newer scoreboards that are in the miners, some of the kitchen equipment, the blue chairs, the dasher boards, and some of the patio furniture that is now surplus from the golf course. I believe that about covered everything.
Thank you, Brian. I just have one question on the scoreboard themselves. I'm sure you've considered it, but just for my information, and maybe for the public as well, and for all of us. So the scoreboard, I mean, can those scoreboards be reused at any baseball field or anything like that, or?
They are hockey scoreboards. They cannot be reused for another sport. They're not laid out that way. If we wanted a baseball scoreboard, it has a completely different layout. If we wanted to reuse them in another hockey arena, we definitely could, but it was actually cheaper for us to get brand new scoreboards for the MEC than to have them take these scoreboards down and move them over, as odd as that sounds.
No, it sounds very, I understand that completely, but I know after this meeting, maybe some of us, I know I'll get calls about why didn't we use that, and you gave me the appropriate answer. Thank you, Brian. Any questions? Councilor Johnson.
Here. Are those hockey, the old ones, are they also indoor as opposed to multi-use?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
They probably could survive for a year or two outdoors, but I would not recommend it.
Okay, thank you. Did we have a motion on that yet, Pam? No. We're looking for a motion to move forward with the request by Park and Rec for the approval of the surplus sale.
I'll move.
Moved by Counselor Paulson. Is
I'll
there
support.
support? Supported by Counselor Bearable. Is there any further discussion?
Selfishly, I would also like the proceeds from this sale to go to the MEX FF&E budget rather than into where we normally put surplus dollars.
Well, I believe that we're going to be voting on the motion, and wherever those dollars go, will be up to staff to make that determination, huh? So moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brian.
Next item.
Finally, Chief,
Yes,
item 7.
Chief Lewis has been waiting so patiently. Item number 7, regarding the request for annual recognition picnic for the Virginia Fire Department.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Council. Thank you. This is in line with what we've done for the last 4 or 5 years. Actually, 5 years. I think this will be the 5th year for recognizing our employees, especially after this year that they've had. The annual awards dinner was put off. We usually have that in late January. This year, they've, just because of the distancing and we didn't know what was going to happen, they've the unions requested to hold a picnic in the park to invite their families. This request is specifically for employee expenses incurred in the recognition and awards dinner. So I am well aware that public funding can't be used for spouses or children or things like that. So this funding is specifically for our employees. So I wanted to make sure that was clearly stated as I did in the email.
Do you have a list of what you're going to be doing?
The event committee is still putting together the activities.
Okay, very good, thank you.
But yeah, it would be $30 for up to 40 employees.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Bearable, did you have, I'm sorry, anybody have any questions, comments, concerns with this request by the chief? So I think maybe, I'm sorry, go ahead, Counselor Johnson.
So what exactly is the request? Because all we have there is Fire Chief Alan Lewis request for annual recognition picnic. So what are we exactly approving? Or-
Yeah, I looked in the packet and I didn't see my email in there. It was a very, very short request, and it was for $30 per person for up to 40 employees. So it would be at a cost of up to $30 per each employee.
For the meal or for?
For the meal, yes.
So this is a picnic?
It would be a picnic, yeah. And it probably will not be that much, but that was what I was asked for the union to bring forward.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. So will this picnic be held at the fire department
It will be held in the park.
in the park?
Yep.
Will there be awards? I'm trying to think of what has happened in the past. Will there be awards like last time?
Yes, and the awards are dependent upon the manufacturer getting the proper materials and getting those done in time. So whether they will physically be presented there, we will definitely do the recognition there.
Okay, so that's something that will be done, and will council support need to be there? Would you request that or not?
Yes, they're welcome, more than welcome to stop by and attend. I know the mayor's been gracious enough to host it for a number of events.
I'm just trying to think of when the last time we did that, when we had our council meeting at the Baltrica Bandstand. Was that National Night Out when you presented all those awards?
It was National Night Out, yes. Although they've had picnics in the, or recognition dinners in the past, we've hosted, the Elks Club has hosted that at no cost to allow them to have their meal and whatever they need to do and do their banquet. And I was honored to be invited to, to participate in that event as a sponsor as well. So this has been going on for the last few years, not last year due to COVID.
I'm happy to support. I just wanted to know if we needed to have any role for you, for your employees.
Just the support is
Thank you.
is fine.
Thank you.
So we would be looking for, we're going to be looking for a motion, obviously, moving forward here. But, I'd like to have an idea exactly what you're planning. So once the event planning gets done, it would be nice for us to be informed about, what you're going to be doing there. So, Counselor Beyondis, did you have a question?
Not so much a question, but a comment that I would fully support anything for the department. I think they've done an outstanding job this past year dealing with everything we've had to deal with. And I really appreciate everything that everybody in that department does. So thank you. I would be in full support of what you need.
Pass that on.
Okay, so
I'll move that we approve
looking for the
up to
motion.
$1,200 for up to 30 employees, or excuse me, 40 employees for food, for the recognition.
Moved by Counselor Johnson and supported by Counselor Bearable. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Chief. Okay,
Thank you. The next item is adopt the resolution approving hire of a heavy equipment operator. And unfortunately, I have candidate A's voicemail, but I cannot reach it right now. So if we can hold this one and just know that's coming to the council next week, I will have a name in there. We did conduct interviews. We took applications, which is surprisingly was the most applications I think we've gotten for a Class A license in years. We got 14. We did interviews for 5. It was 5, right, Bill? And then we came forward with 2 very qualified candidates. They were really neck and neck. And the one we made the initial discussion with, he would have to relocate from a very far distance, so he's still considering if he wants to relocate or not.
okay, so you're asking to hold this in abeyance and moving
Till the
forward at
next
the
meeting.
council meeting?
Correct.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to the next item.
Approve the quote for 4 sets of turnout gear for the fire department. Chief Lewis?
These are new firefighter paramedics that have moved, or single-role firefighters, or what are they?
There's
No such
actually a
thing.
mix. So this is the request for replacing expired sets of turnouts per NFPA, per NFPA 1700 series. These expire every 10 years, and so we are required. So some of these have reached the end of life. Some of them are for new firefighters who had ill-fitting turnouts in the past that have to be replaced. This is a budgeted item. There's a $50,000 line item in our budget for turnout equipment or turnout replacement. We haven't spent but just a few thousand of that this year. So any questions, I guess?
So my question would be, the request for quotes for turnout gear, we usually get it from the same company, right? Because they're the ones who do the high buck ones. So I don't need, I was just making a comment. So looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the quote for this 4 sets of turnout gear for the fire department as budgeted.
Moved by Counselor Freelieb and supported by Counselor Barnzelli to approve the 4 turnout gear for the fire department, 4 sets as budgeted. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Once again, thank you, Chief.
Item number 10 is approve the quote for the fine filter screens of the wastewater treatment plant. And we do have Bill Hennis, Public Works Director, here to discuss.
It seems since we built that new plant, we're constantly being hit with these costs that I wasn't aware of in the past. Bill, how are you?
Morning all. Unfortunately, it's not a new plant anymore. It's
No.
almost 8 years old, so I mean, and it's a very high maintenance
Yes, that's what
area,
I
but
should say.
I think of it as being brand new too, but it's unfortunately, in the life of a wastewater treatment plant, you're probably about almost halfway into its useful life. So anyway, long and short of it, back in 2019, we attempted to do this project, the fine filter screens, which all the influent comes into the plant directly. They go into some big wet wells. We have 4 of these fine filter screens that need to be repaired. And subsequently, we started in 19. Again, we ran into a problem where we couldn't do it. We had to have SEH do some engineering on it. And subsequently, we didn't get to it last year. So we did have that funding approved back in 2019. We'd like to move ahead with that project now that we got it all figured out. And we're recommending that we go with GNE as they are a closed-end quote. The apparent low quote of Huber is basically a time and material based on what they think it's going to do the project. And we'd rather go with the fixed rate. And then in addition, we will have the crane service that we got to use to actually lift those screens out through the roof access panel.
And what is the normal lifespan of those screens? It's hard to say.
We've gotten almost 8 years out of them right now. They were due for a replacement 2 years ago, so we've kind of been bandaging them along. So we can anticipate that we'll be doing this again in probably another 8 years.
So it's part of regular maintenance, and they've reached their end of life and beyond, and so it's time to move forward.
Correct.
Thank you. Counselor Paulson.
I'll move forward G&E for the amount of $12,995.
Moved by Counselor Paulson.
I'll support, Mayor.
Supported by Counselor Bearable. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Got you again, street and alley.
The next item on the agenda is review the recommendation from staff regarding alley closure at 607 5th Street South. This is Mr. Mike Vidmar's request.
Well, I see that Mr. Vidmar has come forward, and there's some significant discussion on the council with, looks like we have majority support for his request. I would ask Bill, this has been something that's been used for 25 years or more, but he gave a lot of factual basis about, why he would request that this be closed. So I guess the question for us at this point in time is that what would be the impact if we were to move forward with his request?
Well, again, Mayor, I'm not sure what his request is. We looked at this as part of the street and alley the other week. I brought forward to the street and alley that it is not a legally planted alley. Subsequently, this was, and I'm not 100% sure whether we own all the property in that area. This was the old railroad grade that I believe Wisconsin Central owned way back when, went to DM and IR, and I think that's where we actually purchased most of this property from. The lot immediately adjacent to his house was a lot that we got from St. Louis County as a tax forfeit lot. And subsequently, again, this is just an access road that, along with all of the Rogerville Road, is just, left over from the old railroad grades that were in there. There's about 3 or 4 other garages that front this area as you go north. So I guess my thoughts would be if you want to make it an alley, we'd have to have somebody do a little research to make sure we own it, first of all, to plat it or dedicate it as an alley. And if you're looking at just a maintenance program, I do have chloride coming in mid-June to cut down on the dust control. If it's something that you want a blacktop, again, the city would have to decide if they want to put something in the coffers to pay for that. Right now, there's nothing budgeted for that kind of repair.
Thank you, Bill. I think the request by Mr. Vidmar was just to close that non-platted portion and have only local access, maybe where the school has some trucks going back there and the local access, but not have that a through street or through alley for any other public use. So he wasn't requesting that it be bituminous, he was just requesting that this be closed. And so,
Again, you can close it, but my only concern was if you look right to the north, you have the school maintenance building. I do know they do receive deliveries by semi-truck in that area occasionally. So we'd have a problem with access to there. And going forth north there again, you have a couple garages that immediately front that drive or access point that if you'd close that off, you may have some concerns by them.
okay, thank you. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to go back to that. That's not an alley, and people shouldn't be driving on it. Just because it's the way it's been for however long. And there's an alley immediately to the west that could be utilized for access to everything else over there. I've thought a lot about this. We got the email from Matt this morning about that space. I'm going to make a motion that we put up barricades and appropriate signage indicating that that is not a thorough road and folks can access it using the plotted alley and the cut through behind the building.
Moved by Councilor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Councilor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion, Bill?
Larry, Mayor, I'd ask that you be specific on where you want us to barricade and where you want those barricades put up. Again, with it being a wide open area, we can put barricades and then keep them from driving around what the intent of the council is.
I would say getting those, some of those concrete bricks and making it so that you could walk through and then put up signage and across the the Fifth Street access, from where the Sixth, or Fifth Street is, going parallel to Fifth Street, yeah, right there, that whatever's needed to make that inaccessible to vehicles. And then in the middle, logically, make that a little harder to get through so that four-wheelers, if they're gonna come through, have to slow down and go around it. Just because I just think that we're at a point now where that, again, if there was anywhere else that people were driving on, I mean, we get pretty picky about people parking on sidewalks, and when their garages are too close to the road, they shouldn't be driving down there, and I think that's the right access. And then also be aware that and I think Mr. Vidmar and neighbors need to be aware that if it's not a street, we're not going to plow it. We would have no reason as a city to plow that space. That would be up to them to figure out their winter access as it's, and maybe that's a bigger can of worms that needs to be considered as we move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. And before we go to Councillor Freely, I think the point is we're looking, I think we believe that Mr. Vidmar has a valid point, but I think if it's agreeable with the elected body that we allow Bill to contact Mr. Vidmar, work with him, find out what's the best way in which to close this street off when it's possible, and to ensure the access that the school might have to make their deliveries and those kind of things, and also indicate to Mr. Vidmar that by closing this off, it's not a platted city street, not an alley, and we won't be doing any maintenance on there, so that's a consideration for him and his neighbors as well. Councillor Freely?
Being a resident in that immediate area, I do have some concerns about, my entire 64 years on the earth, that has always been an access way to go north and south. And putting up concrete barriers could be an immediate hazard for people that aren't aware of it. They will become aware of it when they smash into it, because people come flying through that alley frequently. And I think that's one of the concerns of Mr. Vidmar's, is that there's excess speed oftentimes by young drivers who utilize that area for parking for the school. It's an incredibly busy area for traffic, incredibly busy, especially during school, which is going to be out soon, but regardless. And the other issue I would have is now it's not going to be maintained and it's not going to be plowed. That would be another issue for residents in that area, because oftentimes I go down that alley to get to my own home. There is a blind corner at the north end of that, though, right by the my son's garage, which is incredibly dangerous. I can't believe there hasn't been accidents there already. I see a need for something to be occurring there to slow traffic down or to impede traffic in some capacity, certainly to tone down the dust as well. But I would have a significant concern closing it off entirely and then no longer having any responsibility on the part of the city to maintain it in some capacity. And I'm sure Mr. Vidmar would have that concern as well when it's snowed in and he's going to be responsible for trying to get himself out of that property there on the corner. So I don't know that closing it is the answer at this point in time, nor is the expense of paving it, but his biggest concern was the dust, if we recall.
Yes.
That it's kicking up dust and it's causing concern for being able to maintain his property and his vehicles and so on, which is legit. But that's going to be toned down dramatically and significantly in just a few days when school's out. Then the traffic is going to be reduced by 90% in that area, which will, cause for his concern shouldn't be raised any further. So I don't know, it might have been a little premature to make a motion to close it off and put concrete barriers there, because I don't see the situation as that dire in that neighborhood, but that's where we're at, so thanks.
Yeah, well, I'd prefer to see us, with the street and alley, we discussed it, at street and alley to some degree. We discussed it here at the council level. I'd like to see us have Bill go meet with Mr. Vidmar after, or take a look and see what can be done to alleviate any issues Mr. Vidmar might have, and then come back to street and alley and make a recommendation for you to discuss it at your street and alley meeting, then come back here for a formalized, structured, investigative part of what's the best way in which to do this. So, but there is a motion on the floor. Would you read the motion back, please?
Oh, I didn't approve it.
Okay, thank you. That's the motion. First Counselor Bearable, and then over to Counselor Beyondich. Counselor Bearable.
Yeah, I started thinking about this. It came before my street and alley committee, and this is going to be self-limiting because the high school is disappearing in 2022. So, you got, if we put the stuff down, the dust control and stuff, all that traffic is going to disappear because the high school students are all moving to Midway in 2022 for the start of that school year, 22-23. I think we should work with Mr. Vidmar a little bit more because everybody's right. The snow plowing is going to disappear because they don't plow that alley to the left, I don't believe. They just plow the right behind those garages. And the school has that, and I don't know what's going to happen to that school storage if they're going to continue to use it for the grade schools and stuff in the future for the new one. I'm not going to go along right now as chairman even to close that right now, just to take care of it for the summer and talk to Mr. Vidmar. I think we owe him that from this council right now, because it is going to be an impairment to everybody that lives there, especially when it comes to winter, because we won't plow it anymore. I didn't think about that when we first had our meeting as a committee. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's important for us to have our staff from Public Works take a look at what, and Bill has experience in the street areas, make a recommendation, think about what some of the remedies could be to alleviate the concerns that Mr. Rivera has, and then come back to your committee and discuss that, and then come to an agreement and a recommendation to move forward to the city council for action. Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you. Is this a city alley? Is it an alley?
It's not platted as an alley.
So I dealt with a parking lot that was not a parking lot for 20 years. And that's where if it's not an alley, do you maintain it? Because a parking lot that was not a parking lot did not get maintained for 20 years. So what is it? Is it an alley?
It's not an alley.
But
there are garages behind there that are affected.
And I have no issue with what Councilor Friedlieb is saying, because I understand that also. But I get very confused on what is an alley, what is a parking lot, how do we define that, how do we care for it, how do we maintain it?
Well, historically, this particular incident, issue that Mr. Bearden brought forward, we've been maintaining it. Even though it's not an alley, it is not a designated alley, but people use it as such. Residents use it, the school maintenance garage uses it. And so whether it's an alley or not, we don't maintain it like an alley.
So how do you have it become an alley?
Well, you'd have to designate it as such. Bill, you can answer, Councilor Bjorn. What we would have to do to designate that as an alley? There's a lot of work involved.
Well, you'd have to go first, find out who legally owns it. And as we all know, railroad property in town, it's going to be a long and tedious process. Even though we think we owned it, we bought that from the DM&I, our railroad, which says we owned a stretch of land 50 feet on either side of a track that doesn't exist and didn't exist when we bought it. And we basically bought that property all the way from Department of Public Utilities all the way down to Highway 53 in the 90s. We tried to figure out what we bought, and we gave up. So, just to let you a little history of it, there's a whole drawer full of it that we had RLK Engineering do for it in the 90s, trying to figure it out. There was busts in the plat, and nothing worked out great. Then once you do figure it out, then you have to come through the city. If we do own it, we'd have to designate that right away. And again, we'd have our city attorney go through, draw up some legal descriptions with the help of, say, SEH or something like that, have your public hearings and do all that and get it through that process. And that's probably, again, why it's never been done. Again, you had 2 railroad spurs going in there back until the mid-90s. That was all abandoned when we stopped burning coal. City picked it up. They looked like alleys. They were used by alleys, so we maintained them as such a gravel alley.
Thank you. And I don't have an issue talking with Mr. Vidmar about this property, but it's very confusing when we have properties that we don't really know what they are. We maintain some, we don't maintain others. So it's just very confusing, because I dealt with this for 20 years. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Biondi. Would you please read back the motion that's on the floor? Okay, that's the motion on the floor. It's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Johnson.
First, Pam, I would ask that you change it to property instead of alley, since it's not an alley.
know, that's what I'm like.
Please.
Okay, change it to the motion to
And
property.
so then my question would be, why don't we actually plow the alley that's there?
Because
Councilor Freely.
because what we're talking about has always been an acceptable
I get that.
thoroughfare. is-
But if we're gonna, that, just by plowing the proper alley, that would slow traffic down immensely because they would have to zigzag. So that's just one thought. My other frustration is, how many times do we have to make Mr. Vidmar get a hold of somebody and come to a meeting and send a letter and talk to Matt Reed? We've done that. Matt Reed gave us his suggestions as city staff, as we asked him to at the committee meeting. We have all that information. I'm not going to change my motion because I think if it doesn't pass, that's fine. We don't have to agree on everything all the time. But at some point, we need to rectify the problem. And if you look, only his house has in this little section we're looking at, because that's what he has brought to us, that whole thing doesn't need to be plowed. He could figure out how he's going to plow to get to the access wherever it is up further up. I don't want to keep saying, okay, and 20 years later, we're looking at this going, why haven't we fixed this? So I'm going to leave my motion as stands with those comments.
Okay, thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So just for clarification, at the street and alley meeting, when Matt Reed, when Mr. Vidmar, I don't know if he attended, but whatever Mr. Reed's suggestions were, was that what Mr. Vidmar was requesting?
Mr. Vidmar requested that the alley be, or that space be closed. He said those words in the meeting.
And that was Matt Reed's
Matt Reed's came
recommendation.
later. That's what came this morning in an email. That
That
was
was the-
one of them.
But that was one of the recommendations
Yes.
to conduct that. And can we legally do that? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Freely.
Yeah, I would just reiterate that Mr. Vidmar has legitimate concerns with regard to the dust that's kicked up, and I have legitimate concerns with regard to the exhibition of speed that occurs there, essentially and ultimately only during the school year. And so like I'm saying, the concerns that we have are going to be eliminated within a couple of days, at least for the next several months. So I would even suggest if we're going to do anything there, it should be during the school year as opposed to after. But I guess I being a neighbor in that area, I don't know that it's necessary to close it, especially at this point in time. We may want to revisit it at some point when school reopens. And again, that's going to be only for another year, I think. But putting barriers across that south opening there right off of Fifth Street is going to be like, whoa, people are going to be like, what happened here? Why is this all of a sudden happening? It was because dust was being kicked up, which is legitimate concern, but like I said, that's going to be essentially eliminated in the next several days. So I'd have trouble supporting it, even being a neighbor in that area. And I want to be supportive of Mr. Vidmar, but I think it's being naturally supported by the fact that 95% of the traffic is going to be gone from there in about 3 days.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No. Roll call, please.
Aye.
No.
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 Aye.
Aye.
A motion fails 4-3.
Okay, with that, Mayor, Bill has already said you got chloride coming, right, Bill? Okay. Yeah, and we'll revisit this, but with the hospices, after I thought about this, with the school going to be open back in '22 for 22-23 school year, that whole problem is going to probably disappear. And that's a wide area there to get to that actual alley that's there. For an individual to take care of their snow plowing and stuff in an alley. Most of our alleys, heck, they push the stuff right up against your garages and stuff, so that's a significant snow removal problem that he would have in the wintertime. And the dust is gone in the wintertime through that alley, but we need to revisit it down the road here. I'm not gonna say we shouldn't.
Okay, thank you. Okay, final comment, hopefully, here. There was a motion failed, so Mr. Vidnar is still hanging out there. So I think we still have to address his issue, whether it's, in some way, in that regard. So it's been moved and supported. No, it's failed. So, okay, so we're good. We have no other motion on the floor. All right, thank you. So let's
Larry-
move to that. Yes, go ahead.
I'll contact Mr. Vidnar, being chair of Street and Alley, and explain what's going on and how it's not a legal alley. I'll explain the whole works to him, okay? And I'll promise I'll contact him within the next day. I've got his phone numbers and stuff, unless staff wants to do that.
Well, I think maybe we should go through staff, in which to do that. I think that's important based upon the recommendations that in our policy moving forward. I know being street and alley chair, you'd be the one to call the meeting and to discuss any recommendations or any information that's gleaned from any conversation we have with Mr. Vidar. And I do have I do agree with Councilor Johnson that, we can't leave him hanging in the weed patch here. We have to do something here to try to rectify. So thank you. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just on the, I don't know if it's St. Louis County Land Explorer, and I'm clicked on the parcel number adjacent to the property. That parcel number is 090-0030-00060. Says the owner is the city of Virginia. Then if you click just to the west of that, and I'm just putting these into the record so we can, if you need me to restate it. Okay, and this is the second one, 090-0180-00341. And that looks like it's part of like the grass strip and then part of the causeway there, whatever you want to call it. And maybe if we could explore ownership and designation, but it appears as on the county's website that the city of Virginia is the owner of those two parcels.
Right, so thank you for that, Councilor Paulson. So we'll continue to do that research about the alleyway there and move with that. So, all right, thank you. Anything else?
See everything.
Anything else? Nothing? We're good? Okay. All right, thank you. Next item.
The next item on,
Is staff, Mayor, is staff
Hey,
going to contact?
hang on now. We have 4 people talking here.
Is staff going to contact Mr. Vidmar then? Is that the decision we made?
Well, the recommendation is to have staff, along with, whether it's our city administrator and Bill, contact Mr. Vidmar and, and give him progress where we're at, and then we're working towards some kind of a resolution.
All right.
And then they'll probably bring back to your street and alley, and
That's
you
fine.
and your committee members can vet that.
Okay,
That
that's
makes
fine.
sense?
That makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
thank you. The next item on the agenda is discuss property offer for parcel 090-0030-07450, Lot 4, Block 100.
And you want this portion closed?
We do have an offer of real estate negotiations, so it would be prudent to close the meeting.
Looking for motion, move to close.
I'll move to close.
Moved by Counselor Paulson, supported by
Support.
Counselor Beyondich. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. Meeting is now closed. For item 12, the discussion of property offer for parcel ID number 090